Snow White was voiced by a teenager. When Walt Disney produced Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in 1937, he was entering unknown territory with the world's first feature-length animated film. He believed the princess's voice had to sound innocent, delicate, and completely believable as a young girl.
I'm awfully sorry. I didn't mean to frighten you.
After auditioning hundreds of women, he chose Adriana Caselotti, a classically trained singer who was just 18 years old. Her high operatic soprano gave Snow White a childlike quality that instantly stood out, and it set the model for how Disney princesses would sound for decades. Caselotti was paid $20 a day for her work, earning a total of about $970. Adjusted for inflation, that would be close to $20,000 today. While this was respectable pay for a young performer, it was far less than what live-action leading actresses made. More importantly, Disney placed strict restrictions on her career afterward. He considered her voice too distinctive and wanted it tied exclusively to Snow White. She was not allowed to take on other film or radio roles, even when she was offered them, because Disney feared it would weaken Snow White's identity. This meant Caselotti never built a Hollywood career beyond that single role. She had only minor, uncredited cameos afterward, like a single singing line in The Wizard of Oz, 1939. But Snow White remained her defining and only major credit. Her contribution was groundbreaking, giving life to the very first animated princess, but it also cost her the chance to act or sing freely outside Disney's control. Cinderella's slipper was originally fur, not glass. The famous glass slipper from Cinderella, 1950, is one of the most iconic symbols in Disney history, but the idea of a glass shoe actually comes from a translation error. In Charles Perrault's original 17th century French fairy tale, the word used for the slipper was ver, which refers to a type of fur made from squirrel pelts. When the story was retold and translated into other languages, ver was confused with verre, the French word for glass. Disney chose to keep the glass interpretation since a transparent slipper was more magical and visually striking for animation. The glass shoe also created dramatic tension for the story, because glass is delicate and could break at any moment.
Oh, no! Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, this is terrible. The king, what will he say? What will he do?
Symbolizing how fragile Cinderella's chance at happiness seemed. By using glass instead of fur, Disney's version helped redefine the tale for modern audiences, and it became the permanent version most people know today. Aurora speaks less than any other princess. In Sleeping Beauty, 1959, Princess Aurora, also known as Briar Rose, has the fewest spoken lines of all the Disney princesses. Across the entire film, she speaks only about 18 lines and has roughly 18 minutes of screen time, despite being the title character.
He's tall and handsome and so romantic.
Most of the story is carried by the three good fairies, Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, who guide the plot, protect Aurora, and ultimately save her from Maleficent's curse. This was a deliberate creative choice. Walt Disney wanted Aurora to embody grace, innocence, and the idealized qualities of a fairy tale heroine, rather than drive the story through dialogue. Her role was meant to feel passive, with fate and others' actions shaping her life. Aurora's most memorable contribution comes through her singing voice, provided by soprano Mary Costa, whose operatic performance gave the character her signature dreamlike quality. Because of her limited presence, Aurora is sometimes considered one of the least developed Disney princesses. However, her character design, voice, and the film's visual style, heavily influenced by medieval art, cemented her as an iconic figure in Disney's golden age of animation. Ariel's design caused backstage drama at Disney. Ariel in The Little Mermaid, 1989, wasn't created entirely from imagination. She was pieced together from real people. Animators hired actress Sherry Stoner to act out Ariel's scenes, from brushing her hair with a fork to swimming motions, and they traced her movements into the character to make Ariel's body language lifelike. Her facial features, however, came from actress Alyssa Milano, who was unaware at the time that her look was being used as a reference. But one of the juiciest secrets is that Ariel's design actually sparked internal debate at Disney. Many executives originally pushed for her to have blonde hair to match Hans Christian Andersen's original mermaid. Some even worried red hair would look too unusual for audiences. Animators insisted on red because blonde would fade into the ocean backgrounds and lose detail on screen. The red won, and it became one of the most iconic design choices in Disney history. Adding to the behind-the-scenes drama, Ariel's revealing seashell bra also divided the creative team. Some felt it was too risque for a family film, while others argued it fit the fantasy aesthetic of a mermaid.
Is lucky, they in for a worse fate. One day when the boss get hungry, yes, you got me on the plate.
In the end, Disney kept the seashell design but toned down her overall appearance to balance innocence with allure. The mix of Stoner's movements, Milano's features, the controversial red hair, and the debated seashell design shows that Ariel wasn't just a character, she was the result of bold, risky choices that nearly went in a very different direction. Belle's design caused major battles at Disney. Early concept art for Beauty and the Beast, 1991, showed Belle as blonde, glamorous, and aristocratic, closer to Cinderella's style. Animators scrapped this after deciding she would feel too perfect and distant. Glenn Keane, her supervising animator, argued that Belle should look approachable, so he modeled her personality after Katharine Hepburn's Jo March in Little Women. Details like Belle tucking her hair behind her ear while reading came directly from this inspiration, signaling intelligence and independence. Her brown hair and hazel eyes became another point of debate. Executives worried audiences wouldn't embrace a plain heroine, but Keane fought to make her look like the girl next door rather than an untouchable fantasy. To drive home her uniqueness, Disney added the iconic library scene, making her love of books and knowledge the central symbol of her character rather than romance or beauty. Jasmine was almost a completely different character. When Aladdin, 1992, was first developed, Jasmine's role in the story was much smaller. Early drafts of the script focused almost entirely on Aladdin, with Jasmine appearing only briefly as the princess he wins over. As the film evolved, animators and writers expanded her character, giving her more personality and agency.
Outside the palace walls.
But Jasmine, you're a princess.
Then maybe I don't want to be a princess anymore.
She became outspoken, independent, and determined to make her own choices, especially when rejecting suitors arranged by her father. Her design also changed during production. Early concept art showed Jasmine with a more modest, traditional look inspired by Middle Eastern clothing, including long robes and veils. However, animators later shifted toward a two-piece outfit with flowing pants and a cropped top. This design was chosen to allow more freedom of movement during animation, especially in musical numbers and action scenes. Her large almond-shaped eyes and long black hair were created to give her a striking, instantly recognizable silhouette. Linda Larkin provided Jasmine's speaking voice, while singer Lea Salonga recorded her songs, including A Whole New World. This combination of voices, along with her bold character design, helped Jasmine stand out as one of Disney's most confident and assertive princesses to date. Pocahontas' story was heavily changed from history. The real Pocahontas was only around 10 to 12 years old when she first encountered English settlers in Virginia, and her connection to John Smith was not romantic. There is no record of them having a relationship. Disney changed her age to an adult and invented a love story with Smith to create a dramatic and appealing plot for audiences. The film also left out much of her real-life hardship. Historically, Pocahontas was kidnapped by colonists, forced to convert to Christianity, and later married John Rolfe, not John Smith. She eventually traveled to England and died there at about 21 years old. By removing these darker realities, Disney presented a far more idealized version of events. This rewriting of her story remains one of the most controversial choices Disney has made with a princess. While it helped shape a romantic narrative for the film, it also blurred the line between history and fantasy in ways many critics still discuss today. Mulan almost looked completely different. In the early stages of development, Mulan, 1998, was planned as a light-hearted romantic comedy. In this version, Mulan was written as a clumsy, love-struck girl who tried to win the attention of her village, while the war and disguise storyline played only a minor role. Test audiences reacted poorly to this idea, leading Disney to completely restructure the film into a serious, action-driven story about honor and sacrifice. Mulan's appearance also changed with the rewrite. Early designs showed her as more cartoonish, with softer, exaggerated features similar to Belle or Ariel. Once the story shifted to a more dramatic tone, the animators redesigned her with sharper lines and a more grounded style to match her warrior role. These changes transformed the film's direction, saving Mulan from being remembered as a comedic character and instead making her one of Disney's most iconic heroines. Tiana's character sparked major controversy before release. When Disney first announced The Princess and the Frog, 2009, the original concept was very different, and it immediately drew backlash. Early drafts named the heroine Maddie, a maid working for a wealthy white family in New Orleans. Critics argued this played into racial stereotypes and undermined the significance of Disney's first black princess. After the public outcry, Disney changed her name to Tiana, made her a waitress instead of a maid, and rewrote her backstory to highlight independence and ambition.
Morning, Mr. LaBeouf.
Good morning, Tiana.
Congratulations on being voted King of the Mardi Gras Parade.
Caught me completely by surprise.
Another controversy surrounded her time on screen as a frog. Fans pointed out that while other princesses remain human for most of their stories, Tiana spends the majority of the film transformed. Some saw this as diminishing the visibility of Disney's first African-American princess, since her human form is limited to the beginning and the very end of the movie. These behind-the-scenes debates shaped the final version of Tiana, who ultimately became a groundbreaking character. But the changes reveal how close Disney came to releasing a very different and far more controversial version of its first black princess. Rapunzel's hair required groundbreaking technology. For Tangled, 2010, Disney had to invent entirely new animation tools to bring Rapunzel's 70 feet of magical hair to life. Hair is one of the most complex elements to animate, and no existing software could handle the movement of thousands of individual strands with realism. To solve this, Disney developed a special program called the Dynamic Wires System, which treated each strand like a spring that could bend, stretch, and interact with Rapunzel's environment. The hair required so much processing power that it often took animators weeks to perfect just a few seconds of footage. Special teams studied real hair movement under different conditions, wet, dry, braided, and loose, to capture the details accurately. Even the way Rapunzel's hair glowed when enchanted demanded custom lighting effects. The final result was a technological breakthrough that set a new standard for computer animation. Rapunzel's hair not only became a defining feature of her character, but also demonstrated how far Disney was willing to push technology to achieve a believable fairy tale world. Elsa was originally the villain of Frozen. When Disney first developed Frozen, 2013, Elsa was designed as a classic Disney villain, not a misunderstood heroine. Early concept art showed her with blue skin, sharp angles in her design, and spiky black hair, resembling an ice witch who terrified the kingdom of Arendelle. She commanded armies of snow monsters, and her storyline was directly inspired by Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen, where the icy ruler is the antagonist. In this version, Elsa froze Anna's heart deliberately as part of her villainous plan. The entire direction of the film changed because of one song. When the songwriters Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez created Let It Go, the creative team realized the lyrics portrayed Elsa as conflicted, powerful, and sympathetic, not evil. Suddenly, she became a character who feared her own abilities rather than one who embraced them for destruction. The studio rewrote the film from the ground up, turning Elsa into Anna's sister and shifting the conflict to a story about love, family, and acceptance. This last-minute rewrite was so drastic that it reshaped the movie's themes and characters. Without Let It Go, Elsa would have gone down in Disney history as another villain, not one of the most iconic modern princesses. Moana's story went through huge rewrites after backlash. When Disney first started Moana, 2016, the film was never meant to center on her. The earliest drafts were almost entirely about Maui, the demigod, with Moana playing the role of a curious teenager who tagged along on his journey. In those versions, she didn't even sail alone. She was portrayed as clumsy, unsure of herself, and reliant on Maui to carry the story. This version quickly sparked backlash. Disney had brought in a Oceanic Story Trust, a group of Polynesian cultural experts, to advise on the film. They criticized how Moana was being written, pointing out that she was supposed to represent Polynesian voyagers, some of the greatest navigators in human history. Yet the draft made her dependent on a male hero. Test audiences agreed, saying Moana lacked depth and that the movie felt more like the Maui show. The pushback forced Disney to completely rework the script. Moana was rewritten as the lead who drives the story herself, with Maui stepping back into a supporting role. Her relationship with the ocean, her ancestry as a voyager, and her duty to her people were all added in later rewrites. Even the ocean itself, originally just a backdrop, was redesigned into a semi-sentient character that interacts with her, emphasizing her independence. Another hidden change, in one early version, Moana had 6 brothers, and wasn't even the chief's heir. It was only in later drafts that she was made the future leader of her village, reinforcing her as a groundbreaking heroine. Without these rewrites, Moana might have been remembered as a sidekick in Maui's adventure. Instead, she became one of Disney's most powerful princesses, reshaping the modern image of what a Disney heroine could be. Merida's look in Brave sparked one of Disney's biggest princess scandals. When Brave, 2012, was in development, Pixar originally designed Merida with smooth dark hair and a polished princess look. Director Brenda Chapman fought to change her into a wilder, less traditional heroine with fiery red curls that symbolized her independence. Pixar had to invent new animation technology to control 1,500 curls, making her hair one of the hardest effects they'd ever attempted. But the real scandal came later. After the movie's release, Disney redesigned Merida for the official princess lineup, slimming her waist, glamming up her dress, and taming her curls. Fans erupted in outrage, accusing Disney of erasing the very qualities that made her unique. Even Chapman publicly blasted the change, calling it a horrible move. The backlash was so intense that Disney was forced to quietly pull the redesign and restore Merida's original look. And those were the juiciest secrets behind Disney's most iconic princesses.